spiritual integrity of the creative impulses and the distracting materiality of ordinary life, which throws up so many obstacles in the path of authentic sublimation. But the newer version, in which art is part of a dialectical transaction with consciousness, poses a deeper, more frustrating conflict. The spirit seeking embodiment in art clashes with the material character of art itself. Art is unmasked as gratuitous, and the very concreteness of the artist's tools, and particularly in the case of language, their historicity, appears as a trap. Practiced in a world furnished with second-hand perceptions, and specifically confounded by the treachery of words, the artist's activity is cursed with mediacy. Art becomes the enemy of the artist, for it denies him the realization, the transcendence he desires. Therefore, art comes to be considered something to be overthrown. A new element enters the individual artwork and becomes constitutive of it. The appeal, tacit or overt, for its own abolition, and ultimately for the abolition of art itself. 2. The scene changes to an empty room. Rimbaud has gone to Abyssinia to make his fortune in the slave trade. Wittgenstein, after a period as a village school teacher, has chosen menial work as a hospital orderly. Duchamp has turned to chess. Accompanying these exemplary renunciations of a vocation, each man has declared that he regards his previous achievements in poetry, philosophy, or art as trifling, of no importance. But the choice of permanent silence doesn't negate their work. On the contrary, it imparts retroactively an added power and authority to what was broken off, disavowal of the work becoming a new source of its validity, a certificate of unchallengeable seriousness. That seriousness consists in not regarding art, or philosophy practiced as an art form, Wittgenstein, as something whose seriousness lasts forever, an end, a permanent vehicle for spiritual ambition. The truly serious attitude is one that regards art as a means to something that can perhaps be achieved only by abandoning art. Judged more impatiently, art is a false way, or, the word of the Dada artist Jacques Vacher, a stupidity. Though no longer a confession, art is more than ever a deliverance, an exercise in asceticism. Through it, the artist becomes purified, of himself and eventually of his art. The artist, if not art itself, is still engaged in a progress toward the good. But whereas formerly the artist's good was mastery of and fulfillment in his art, now the highest good for the artist is to reach the point where those goals of excellence become insignificant to him, emotionally and ethically, and he is more satisfied by being silent than by finding a voice in art. Silence in this sense, as termination, proposes a mood of ultimacy, antithetical to the mood informing the self-conscious artist's traditional, serious use of silence, beautifully described by Valéry and Rilke, as a zone of meditation, preparation for spiritual ripening, an ordeal that ends in gaining the right to speak. So far as he is serious, the artist is continually tempted to sever the dialogue he has with an audience. Silence is the furthest extension of that reluctance to communicate, that ambivalence about making contact with the audience, which is a leading motif of modern art, with its tireless commitment to the new and/or the esoteric. Silence is the artist's ultimate otherworldly gesture. By silence, he frees himself from servile bondage to the world, which appears as patron, client, consumer, antagonist, arbiter, and distorter of his work. Still, one cannot fail to perceive in this renunciation of society a highly social gesture. The cues for the artist's eventual liberation from the need to practice his vocation come from observing his fellow artists and measuring himself against them. An exemplary decision of this sort can be made only after the artist has demonstrated that he possesses genius and exercised that genius authoritatively. Once he has surpassed his peers by the standards which he acknowledges, his pride has only one place left to go. For to be a victim of the craving for silence is to be, in still a further sense, superior to everyone else. It suggests that the artist has had the wit